Stay with Billy Kay. Very exciting show today. I have with me Anita Singleton Prather, also known as Aunt Pearlie Sue, but who is now the First Lady of Gullah. She'll be with me, and then I'm going to talk about what a lot of people want to hear about, and that is the progress on the Boundary Street redevelopment. Welcome back to Live, Work, Stay with Billy Kay. I'm very fortunate today to have with me one of my good friends, someone I admire a great deal, Anita Singleton Prather, also known as Aunt Pearlie Sue, but most recently she's been named by her film producer and trademarked as the First Lady of Gullah. And that's really deserving. I've known Anita since I came back to Beaufort. At the time she's trained and had a career in teaching in public school. At the time she was teaching school, and she was one of many people who were with Marlena at the Hallelujah Singers. She graduated into her own show, first alone, and then she created the Gullah Kinfolk. The Gullah Kinfolk have traveled all over this country, overseas, telling the story of Gullah. I think the most exciting thing, which I'm going to ask Nita to talk about, is that she has produced a film, and you know, there are parts of history that have never been written. As Mayor Riley, former Mayor Riley in Charleston, when he talks about the International African American Museum, he said they're blank pages in the history book, because they're stories that have been painful, they're stories that have been people that have been politically awkward, and the story of the Gullah people, from slavery through Reconstruction to today, is one of those stories that really hasn't been told. And so Anita, to my knowledge, it's the first video presentation, film presentation, beginning to fill in those pages of history that young people need to know, that old people need to know, because it gives us a better understanding of how we as a people fit together. Yeah. If we only know one person's story, how do you develop a relationship? And so I see this as bridge building, very excited about it, but tell us about the film.
Well, I'm excited. I kind of started working on it, as I was teaching in the classroom, South Carolina history. So a lot of the information and research I had done over the years, to add some...
To fill in what
right,
in the books.
At the school for the kids, and make it exciting for the students, to bring history alive. And so, and then eventually that kind of evolved into a stage production that I started doing with my singers, titled The Circle Unbroken, The Gullah Journey from Africa to America. And then when Ron and I talked about doing another project together, my producer, Ron Small, at first we were gonna just do it as a concert at Middleton Place. And then as we kept talking about it and pondering it, the idea and how we were going to make this happen at Middleton Place, the concert with narration and storytelling, that kind of stuff. He called me one day, he said, what do you think about if we filmed it in Beaufort? Sounds great to me. Sounds
great to me.
Yeah, it sounds like an answer to a prayer, because it's something I've been wanting to do, to showcase some of the historic locations that we have here in Beaufort. There's so much history here that people don't know that exist. Beaufort is so unique in so many ways. Even though we tell part of the Gullah story, Beaufort is almost could be considered the taproot of African American history, because 3 out of 4 Africans came through the ports of South Carolina. And they continued to, even though it was against the law and it was prohibited to bring fresh Africans into America after the early 1800s, they continued to smuggle us in right up to the eve of the Civil War, 1861.
How's anybody go smuggle you? Go ahead.
Anyway.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get you off track.
But, so we have pure African minds that are still here, because some of us came as adults, because a lot of people don't know we were the first set of blacks to be freed right at the beginning of the Civil War, only 7 months after it started. And it started on paper here with the the Articles of Succession first being drafted here. So much history that's right here in Beaufort. And because Beaufort became the first headquarters for the Union troops in the Deep South, then Beaufort wasn't destroyed like Charleston and Atlanta and Savannah and Columbia. So a lot of our buildings are still here. A lot of those pieces of history that other people can just say it used to be over there and that used to be there, they can actually still see it. So Gullah is still alive and kicking. The history is still alive and kicking.
Well, I think it's so exciting because you do this film. Mitchellville and Hilton Head is beginning to try to reinvent or rebuild what was there. Penn Center
has been there and
God
standing strong.
God bless them, is standing strong. Santa Elena, which, the first settlement in North America,
Right.
the first capital of North America, right here.
Yeah, and I just love to tell folks, go back and tell your history teachers, wrong answer.
That's
It wasn't
right.
Jamestown,
That's right.
Virginia, but right here.
That's right. And then I'm working with a number of professors and with Professor Eric Foner, who is sort of the rock star of Reconstruction, on putting a Reconstruction hub, which would be a small interpretive center that would send people out to 102 sites, from the first place where blacks voted to some of the businesses that blacks held, to the Oaks Plantation House where Penn School was originally started, to the
Right.
Great Church. You can go down the list. So, and in fact, we're hosting the South Carolina Humanities Festival here, and what we're trying to do is package so much that's going on in terms of telling our story, not just for tourists, but to our own children. I always think that the tourism people and I get in a disagreement about this, but I say instead of trying to be something for people you want to get to come here, let's be ourselves.
That's right.
Because that authenticity
is what draws
what
people.
makes people
That's right.
Beaufort very
That's
different.
right.
But Nita, you're really a pioneer. I mean, going back to the Hallelujah Singers, Marlena's sort of taken off and doing more in the music, just the music education. You were beating that stick, beating that drum, caroling the group of the kinfolk, all over the country, telling our story. And I just think it's so exciting that all of our history is part of the blank pages. And that starting with you, Santa Elena, Marlena's work, Rondez's work, everybody's work. If we'd only work together better, it'd be better. But we're filling in those pages of history that's never been told.
A lot of people don't even know, even our Grand Army Hall that we have here, that people take for granted. It's only one of two that still exists. And they're basically the Veteran Lodge of 1860, late 1860. And the only other one is in Maryland, and it was about to be demolished. And, Historical Society and a few other people were able to at least get it stabilized, and they're in the process of trying to raise funds to actually buy the building and restore it. But we have the only one that has never been out of use.
We were there last night.
That's right. And we have all of those just gems, hidden gems in our community that people don't know about. The praise houses, yes, most definitely. Coffin Point, Eddings Point. It's just so much stuff. And I really would like to invite teachers to allow me to take them on a seminar tour so I can show them what's here so that they can bring that history, take it off of the page, and make it come alive for children. Because what a child can learn in one day on a field trip, you can't teach in a month. And so
last summer we had, I hired the grant writer, the university ran the program, but a teacher's seminar on Reconstruction. And we had teachers here for 6 weeks, 31 teachers from around the country who came to the university campus, but they were on buses and they went, all over the place. So they could better teach the history that wasn't written. Maybe we ought to look at an NEH grant to do a teacher's thing, a teacher's seminar.
Love to do it.
On the coming of the developing of the Gullah culture. I think time is running short, but I think one of the interesting things is I've noticed in the quote Gullah community, my friends, who I talk with. There's some who want to sort of stick it in the past, and there's some who want to say we've got to keep the culture alive. And there's sort of a thin line there by wanting to, well, if it's singing a cappella in the fields, well, you did that because you couldn't have music. If you now can add music, because in Marlena's shows, I mean, she basically has said you can trace music. I've heard you say this. All the way from, and it's in the film, you can trace music that we hear today on the radio, whether it's country, whether it's rock, whether it's blues, whether it's classical, we can trace it to its roots in African culture. So let's keep it alive. Circle and Broken. It can be purchased on the website. Right, go to Gullah.tv. Gullah.tv, Circle and Broken. I've watched it, and I think it's well worth the 55 minutes. And once you watch it, this lady will never leave your heart. She's got energy, she's got spunk, she's got love, she's got humor, she's got music, she's got talent, and she beats the rhythm with her stick. Yes, I do. Thank you so much, Anita. Thank you, Billy. I really appreciate you taking the time to share with the people throughout Beaufort County. And thank you. You're doing a great job. We just love you, I tell you. You're a trailblazer. You too. Thank you. Thank you for being with us with Live, Work, Stay with Billy Kay.